The warning alarm screamed through Lieutenant Jake Morrison's fighter cockpit as his ship tore through Zirion's crimson atmosphere. Sparks flew from damaged control panels while he fought to maintain some semblance of control over his spinning craft. The routine patrol had gone sideways when unidentified ships had ambushed his squadron near the neutral zone. "Come on, baby. Stay together," Jake muttered through gritted teeth, his knuckles white against the flight controls. The ground rushed up to meet him at an alarming speed, jagged rock formations reaching, like hungry fingers, toward his crippled vessel. The impact sent shockwaves through his body as the fighter skidded across crystalline sand, carving a deep furrow, before finally coming to rest against a cluster of metallic spires. Steam hissed from ruptured coolant lines as Jake struggled to unbuckle his harness, his head spinning from the crash. Stumbling from the wreckage, he surveyed his surroundings. Zirion's twin suns cast an eerie purple glow across the alien landscape, where towering crystal formations jutted from beds of silver sand. In the distance, ancient structures that seemed to grow rather than be built dotted the horizon. A piercing scream shattered the alien silence. Jake's combat instincts kicked in immediately. He grabbed his sidearm and emergency pack from the wreckage. Following the sound across the crystalline dunes, the screaming grew more desperate, mixed with mechanical chittering that made his skin crawl. Cresting a ridge, Jake witnessed a scene that stopped him cold. A woman with luminescent pale skin and flowing auburn hair was cornered against a cliff face by three spider-like mechanical creatures, each the size of a small vehicle. Her torn robes revealed she was clearly not human, with delicate features, and eyes that glowed with an inner silver light. The creatures advanced on her with predatory precision, their laser weapons charging with ominous whines. The woman clutched what appeared to be a ceremonial blade, but Jake could see she was outmatched and wounded. "Hey, tin cans," Jake shouted, opening fire with his plasma pistol. "Pick on someone with better armor." Mechanical assassins spun toward him, their red sensor arrays focusing on this new threat. Jake rolled behind a crystal formation as energy beams scorched the air where he'd been standing. His military training took over as he analyzed their movement patterns and weak points. "Human warrior," the alien woman called out in accented but perfect English. "Their central processing units are located beneath their thorax plates." Jake nodded his thanks and waited for his moment. When the lead assassin rounded his cover, he put 3 shots directly into its weak point. The machine convulsed and collapsed. In a shower of sparks and mechanical screams, the remaining 2 creatures flanked him, forcing Jake to sprint across open ground while dodging energy beams that left molten glass in the sand. He dove into a slide, coming up behind another assassin to deliver point-blank shots to its vulnerable underside. The final mechanical hunter turned its attention back to the woman, apparently deciding she was the easier target. Jake watched in slow motion as it raised its weapon toward her unprotected form. Time seemed to freeze as Jake made his choice. Without hesitation, he threw himself between the alien woman and the assassin's weapon, taking the energy beam across his shoulder. The impact spun him around, but he managed to maintain his grip on his weapon long enough to destroy the final threat. As silence returned to the crystalline wasteland, Jake found himself on his knees in the sand, his shoulder burning from the energy wound. The alien woman knelt beside him, her silver eyes filled with concern and something deeper. "You saved my life, human," she whispered, her cool fingers gentle against his injured shoulder. "I am Princess Zara of the Valerian Empire, and by your sacrifice, you have bound us together by laws older than the stars themselves." Jake looked into her ethereal features, feeling something shift in his chest that had nothing to do with his injuries. "Just doing what felt right, Your Highness." Princess Zara's healing touch sent warmth through Jake's wounded shoulder as she applied some kind of bioluminescent salve from a small vial. Her fingers traced intricate patterns over his injury, and he watched in amazement as the burn began. "Too close. Your medical technology is incredible," Jake said, trying not to focus on how her touch made his pulse quicken. "Thank you. It is I who owe you everything," Zara replied, her silver eyes meeting his. "Among my people, when a warrior saves a royal's life through personal sacrifice, it creates what we call a life debt. You now have claim over my very existence." Jake shifted uncomfortably on the crystal outcropping where they'd taken shelter. I don't want to own anyone, Princess. That's not how humans do things. A smile played at the corners of Zara's lips. Not ownership in the way you might think. The life debt means I am bound to serve and protect you as you have protected me. But it also grants you certain ... privileges. Her cheeks took on a subtle luminescent flush, including the right to claim me as your mate. The words hung between them in the alien twilight as Zirian's twin suns began to set. Jake found himself studying her face, the way her skin seemed to glow with its own inner light, how her auburn hair caught the purple rays of the dying day. Those assassins, Jake said, changing the subject before his thoughts wandered further. They were after you specifically. Why? Zara's expression darkened. My brother Darius believes he should rule the Valerian Empire instead of me. Our father named me heir before his death, but Darius has convinced many nobles that a female cannot lead in times of war. She touched a pendant at her throat. He sent those mechanical hunters to eliminate me during my pilgrimage to the sacred sites. Pilgrimage? A ritual journey that all Valerian royalty must complete to prove their worthiness to rule. I was meant to travel alone, unguarded, to demonstrate courage and wisdom. She laughed bitterly. I did not expect my own brother to use the tradition against me. Jake studied the princess as she spoke. Despite her otherworldly appearance, he recognized the pain of betrayal in her voice, the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. It was something he understood from his own military service. Well, you're not alone anymore, he said firmly. This life debt thing works both ways, right? If I'm bound to protect you, then we're partners. Zara's eyes widened with surprise. Most warriors would have already claimed their rights over me. Why do you hesitate? Jake looked away, watching the alien stars begin to emerge in the darkening sky. Because I want it to mean something when it happens. It's not just because of some ancient law, but because... He trailed off, uncertain how to express the growing connection he felt. Because... Zara prompted softly, moving closer to him on their rocky perch. Because I want you to choose me too, Jake admitted, meeting her gaze. Not out of duty or tradition, but because you want to. The princess studied his face in the starlight, her expression unreadable. Slowly she reached out too, traced the line of his jaw with her fingers. You are unlike any warrior I have known, Jake Morrison. In my culture, strength is shown through taking what you desire. But you show strength by restraint. Is that good or bad? Jake asked, very aware of her proximity and the intoxicating scent that surrounded her like rain on summer flowers. Instead of answering, Zara leaned forward and pressed her lips to his in a kiss that was both gentle and electric. Jake felt something ignite between them, a connection that transcended species and worlds. When they finally parted, both were breathing heavily. The life debt has awakened something in me, Zara whispered against his lips. Something I have never felt before? Is this what humans call love? Jake's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining. I think it might be the beginning of it. A distant mechanical whine echoed across the crystal plains, reminding them both that they were still being hunted. Jake squeezed her hand and stood, helping her to her feet. Come on, princess. Let's find somewhere safer to explore these feelings. The ancient Valerian ruins provided perfect shelter from the hunting parties that prowled the crystalline plains. Jake and Zara had discovered the partially buried structure just as Zirian's twin moons rose, casting silver light through gaps in the ornate ceiling. These chambers were built by my ancestors over 1,000 years ago, Zara explained, running her hands along walls covered in flowing script. They were way stations for pilgrims, places of rest and meditation. Jake examined the architecture with a soldier's eye for defensive positions. Good sight lines, multiple exit routes, and thick walls. Your ancestors knew about more than just meditation, as if summoned by his words. The distant hum of hover vehicles echoed across the desert. Through a crystal window, they could see searchlights sweeping the landscape in geometric patterns. Darius sent more than mechanical assassins, Zara observed grimly. Those are Royal Guard pursuit ships. Jake counted at least 6 vehicles in the search pattern. How loyal are they to your brother? Loyal enough to follow orders, but they are honorable soldiers. They believe they are hunting a traitor, not their rightful princess. Zara moved away from the window. If they capture me alive, I will be taken back for a public trial and execution. That's not going to happen, Jake said firmly. He checked his remaining ammunition and surveyed their temporary fortress. Tell me about Valerian military tactics. How do they think? Zara seemed surprised by the question. They rely on superior technology and overwhelming force. Valerian warriors believe that honor comes from facing enemies directly. Jake smiled grimly. Then they're not expecting guerrilla warfare. Working together, they prepared the ruins for siege. Jake used his combat engineering training to create improvised explosives from his emergency supplies and components salvaged from the mechanical assassins. Zara provided knowledge of her people's technology and the layout of similar ancient structures. There's something you should know, Zara said as they worked side by side. The life debt creates a neural link between us. I can sense your emotions, your intentions. Jake paused in his work. Is that why I feel so connected to you? Like I've known you longer than a few hours? Partially, Zara admitted, her luminescent skin taking on that subtle flush again. But the bond only amplifies what already exists between us. The attraction, the trust. That comes from our hearts, not ancient magic. Their eyes met across the chamber, and Jake felt the pull between them intensify. Before either could speak, the sound of landing ships echoed through the ruins. Princess Zara. A commanding voice boomed through an amplifier. By order of Prince Darius, you will surrender yourself for crimes against the Empire. Jake positioned himself at the main entrance while Zara took cover behind an ancient pillar. Your move, princess? Talk or fight? Zara's jaw set with royal determination. I am not ready to die for my brother's ambition. The assault began with traditional Valerian directness. Heavily armored soldiers poured through the main entrance, expecting to overwhelm their quarry with superior numbers and technology. Instead, they found carefully placed explosive traps and a human who fought like nothing they'd ever encountered. Jake used the ruins' layout to his advantage, striking from unexpected angles and disappearing into shadows before the Valerians could return fire. His hit-and-run tactics confused soldiers trained for honorable combat. While Zara provided covering fire and tactical information, behind the ceremonial altar, Zara called out as Jake dove for cover. There's a hidden passage to the upper galleries. Following her guidance, Jake accessed elevated positions that gave him perfect fields of fire. He picked off soldiers with precise shots while staying mobile, never engaging from the same position twice. The Valerian commander grew frustrated with the unconventional resistance. Enough games. Bring up the heavy weapons, Jake. Zara warned. They're going to bring down the entire structure. But Jake had been counting on Valerian honor. As the soldiers prepared to demolish the sacred ruins, he made himself visible in the central chamber. You call yourselves honorable warriors? He shouted. You're about to destroy a 1,000-year-old temple because you can't defeat one human in fair combat? The effect was immediate. Several soldiers lowered their weapons, unwilling to desecrate their ancestors' holy site. The commander hesitated, trapped between orders and honor. In that moment of uncertainty, Jake and Zara struck. Working in perfect synchronization, they disabled the remaining soldiers and seized control of the situation. Them had grown stronger during the battle, allowing them to anticipate each other's movements with uncanny precision. As the dust settled, Jake and Zara found themselves pressed against each other behind cover, both breathing heavily from combat adrenaline. The danger, the trust, the way they'd fought as one had intensified every emotion between them. We make a good team, Jake said softly, his face inches from hers. More than good, Zara whispered back, her silver eyes reflecting starlight. Perfect. Under the light of Zirian's twin moons, surrounded by the aftermath of battle, they finally gave in to the growing passion between them. Their kiss was fierce and desperate, filled with the knowledge that each moment together might be their last. Dawn on Zarian painted the sky in shades of amber and rose as Jake and Zara took refuge in a hidden valley beyond the ruins. Ancient hot springs bubbled between crystalline formations, creating a natural sanctuary where steam danced in the morning. Light. Zara had shed her torn robes, using them to create makeshift bandages for the minor wounds they'd both sustained. Jake couldn't help but admire her grace as she moved through the alien landscape, her luminescent skin seeming to harmonize with the ethereal beauty around them. "My people believe these springs have healing properties," Zara said, testing the water's temperature. "Perhaps we should rest here while we plan our next move." Jake knelt beside the pool, splashing the warm water on his face. "About that life debt thing, I've been thinking." Zara stiffened slightly. "Have you decided to claim your rights?" "That's just it," Jake said, turning to face her. "I don't want rights over you. I want ... more than that." Confusion flickered across Zara's features. "I don't understand." "The life debt grants you everything a warrior could desire. My service, my body, my complete devotion. What more could there be?" Jake stood and walked to where she sat on a smooth crystal formation. "Choice, Zara. I want you to choose me because you love me, not because some ancient law says you have to." Love, Zara repeated the words softly, as if tasting something foreign and wonderful. "In Valerian culture, we have duty, honor, obligation, but love. That is something I am only beginning to understand through our bond." She reached up to touch his face, her fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "When I look at you, I feel something I have never experienced. My heart races when you smile. I feel stronger when you stand beside me. Is this love?" "I think so," Jake said, covering her hand with his. "I know that when I thought you might die, something inside me broke. And when you're near me like this..." He leaned into her touch. "Everything else fades away." Zara stood, pressing closer to him until they were breathing the same air. "Then I choose to love you, Jake Morrison. It's not because the life debt compels me, but because my heart compels me." Their kiss was different this time, tender and full of promise, rather than desperate passion. Jake felt the neural link between them strengthen, sharing not just emotions, but something deeper: understanding, acceptance, love. "There's something I must tell you," Zara whispered against his lips. "If we truly bond as mates, if we complete the connection the life debt has started, there will be no going back. We will be linked for life, sharing thoughts, emotions even. Life force itself." Jake pulled back to look into her silver eyes. "Are you saying that if we make love, we'll be married in the eyes of your people?" "More than married," Zara confirmed. "Two beings becoming one while still remaining themselves. It is the deepest connection possible between Valerian and another being." The weight of her words settled between them. Jake realized she was offering him not just her love, but her entire existence, merged with his in ways he could barely comprehend. "And if I'm bonded to Valerian royalty?" Jake asked. "You would become a prince of the Valerian Empire," Zara said simply. "With all the responsibilities and dangers that entails. My brother's hunters would never stop coming for us." Jake was quiet for a long moment, weighing the magnitude of the choice before him. A life of constant danger, political intrigue, and responsibility for an alien empire, or he could walk away, help Zara escape to safety, and return to his simple life as a Federation pilot. "Jake," Zara's voice was small, vulnerable, "I will understand if this is too much to ask of you. Your people value freedom above all else. I cannot ask you to give up your entire world for me." Instead of answering with words, Jake cupped her face in his hands and kissed her deeply. When they parted, both were trembling with anticipation and desire. I made my choice the moment I threw myself in front of that energy blast," Jake said firmly. "I choose you, Zara, all of you, for all time." Tears of joy sparkled like diamonds on Zara's luminescent skin. "Then claim me, my love, not by right of the life debt, but by right of love freely given." Under the alien sky, beside waters that had witnessed 1,000 years of Valerian history, Jake and Zara came together as one. Their lovemaking was both tender and passionate, perfect fusion of human emotion and Valerian grace. As their bodies joined, Jake felt the neural link explode into something magnificent. Every sensation was doubled, every emotion shared between them. He could feel Zara's love for him as clearly as his own love for her. creating a feedback loop of pure joy and connection. When they finally lay spent in each other's arms, Jake realized he could sense Zara's thoughts and emotions as clearly as his own. The bond was complete, and they were no longer just Jake and Zara, but something new and wonderful together. "How do you feel?" Zara asked softly, her head resting on his chest. "Like I've been incomplete my whole life without knowing it," Jake replied honestly, "and now I'm finally whole." 3 days later, Prince Darius arrived on Zarian with a full battle fleet, determined to end his sister's rebellion once and for all. Jake and Zara watched from their hidden vantage point as sleek Valerian warships descended from the crimson sky like mechanical angels of death. "He's brought the entire Third Fleet," Zara observed grimly. "Over 5,000 soldiers and enough firepower to turn this moon into space dust." Jake studied the deployment patterns through his enhanced vision, the neural bond allowing him to process tactical information with inhuman speed. He's making the same mistake as his ground forces. "So much reliance on superior numbers and technology. You have a plan?" Zara asked, though through their bond she already sensed the cunning strategy forming in his mind. "I have an idea," Jake corrected, "but it requires something your people have never tried before. We're going to use Valerian honor against itself." Working together, they crafted a message and broadcast it on all military frequencies. Jake's image appeared on screens throughout the invasion fleet, standing proudly beside Princess Zara in the ancient ruins. "Soldiers of the Valerian Empire," Jake began, his voice carrying the authority of a born leader. "I am Prince Jake Morrison, bonded mate to your rightful Princess Zara. I challenge Prince Darius to single combat for the right to rule, as is your ancient custom." The response was immediate chaos. Through intercepted communications, they could hear heated arguments breaking out across the fleet. Some officers demanded Darius accept the challenge, while others questioned the legitimacy of a human prince. Darius himself appeared on the communication channel, his features bearing enough resemblance to Zara that Jake could see the family connection. But where Zara had grace and wisdom, her brother radiated arrogance and barely controlled rage. "You dare challenge me, alien?" Darius snarled. "I'm a prince of the blood, trained from birth in combat. And I'm a human who's already defeated your best assassins and soldiers," Jake replied calmly. "Unless you're afraid to face one primitive alien in fair combat," the insult struck home. Through the bond, Jake felt Zara's amusement and admiration. At his tactical use of Valerian pride, Darius had no choice but to accept or lose face before his entire military force. The combat was arranged on the crystalline plains, where Jake had first saved Zara's life. Traditional Valerian dueling rules applied: energy weapons only. No armor beyond basic protection, and combat continued until death or surrender, as Jake prepared for battle. Zara helped him don ceremonial Valerian combat gear she'd retrieved from the ruins. The form-fitting suit enhanced his natural abilities while providing minimal protection. "I can feel your confidence through our bond," Zara said as she checked his weapons. "Darius is a skilled warrior with decades of training. He's also angry and desperate," Jake replied. "That makes people predictable." She kissed him fiercely. Before he walked onto the battlefield, "Fight well, my love. Our future depends on this." The duel itself was a masterpiece of human adaptability versus Valerian training. Juris fought with textbook precision, using advanced techniques passed down through generations of royal warriors. But Jake fought like a human, adapting his tactics moment by moment. Using every trick he'd learned in years of military service, when Darius attempted a classic overhead strike, Jake rolled beneath it and came up behind him. When the prince tried to pin him with suppressing fire, Jake used the crystalline formations as mirrors to shoot around corners. Every time Darius expected traditional Valerian responses, Jake gave him something uniquely human instead. The turning point came when Darius, frustrated by Jake's unconventional tactics, abandoned technique for raw aggression. He charged across, the open ground energy rifle blazing. Confident that his superior training would carry the day, Jake had been waiting for exactly that mistake. Using a move no Valerian would ever consider, he dropped flat on his back and fired upward as Darius passed overhead. The energy bolt caught the prince in the chest, sending him crashing to the crystalline sand. As Darius lay defeated but alive, Jake stood over him with weapon ready. According to Valerian law, he had every right to execute his opponent. Instead, he extended his hand. "Yield," Jake said simply. "Your sister needs family, not more enemies." The moment stretched endlessly before Darius grasped Jake's hand and allowed himself to be pulled to his feet. The watching soldiers erupted in cheers, their honor satisfied by the display of both courage and mercy. Later, as the fleet prepared to return to the Valerian homeworld, Jake and Zara stood together watching Zarian's twin sons set on their adventure. Zara asked, leaning into his embrace. Jake considered the question seriously. In the past week, he'd gone from a simple fighter pilot to a prince of an alien empire, bonded for life to a woman from the stars. His old life was over, replaced by responsibilities and dangers he could barely imagine.
Amen.
Jake said firmly, feeling the truth of it resonate through their neural bond. "Every choice led me to you, and that makes it all worthwhile." As their ship rose into the star-filled sky, carrying them toward a future neither could have imagined, Jake and Zara faced it together. Human and Valerian, warrior and princess, two souls bonded by fate and sealed by love. Their story would become legend among both species, proof that love could bridge any gap between worlds. And in the years to come, as they ruled the Valerian Empire together, their bond would inspire countless others to reach across the void between stars and find their own impossible love. The universe was vast and full of wonders, but none greater than the moment two hearts chose each other across the infinite darkness of space.